Okay, so welcome to Immersive Sports Science, not bro science. Today we're going to look at a podcast. It's going to be quite a concept idea, if I'm brutally honest. Looking at the state of fitness and sports science and our predictions for 2020. So here is the content of what we're going to be seeing today. So welcome to the State of Fitness and Sport 2020. First of all, we'll be talking about the technology in both fitness and sport. We will also talk about the potential global markets in fitness and sports. We'll look at the possible social media trends of 2019 and 20 and how influencers are using it to leverage their sporting brand. Gen Z, post-millennials, what is next? And of course, we'll be looking back at 2019 and forward at 2020 at what both sports science and fitness will likely look like in this coming year. So I hope you're going to enjoy that little clip we just shown and what we've got to do with the podcast. If you are interested in any more of my content, please subscribe down below. So quite a lot of things we'll be doing here is predicting of what's going to happen in 2020 as mentioned from the contents we've just seen. So talking about the problematics, or the problems with, I'm going to actually take these off because these are actually hurting my eyes. It's slightly problematic when we do slightly predictions. Yes, we're closer in 2020 and we're predicting what's going to happen in 2020, but there's many multifaceted arguments and things that we cannot necessarily equate from. We're going to highlight this in this next clip I'm going to show you from tomorrow as well.
What are going to be the biggest changes in our homes by 2020? Will the house of the future protect the environment? And what new technology do researchers think we'll be living with? We've been talking to some of the people who've been thinking about the home of the future. Christine McNulty.
I started the Home of the Future project to find out what people will want from their homes. They'll want all the benefits of modern technology, but without all this cluttered and complex gadgetry that we have today. They'll want homes that work for them. By 2020, all of this will be possible. We'll have things under control without all of these knobs and buttons. And what's more, the technology itself will be embedded in the very fabric of the house and its furnishings.
So the idea is, once all the clutter of technology has gone, you'll be able to furnish your rooms in any style you like. You won't actually be able to see the technology, but it will be there, doing its job without getting in your way.
That means the lights automatically switch off and on as you walk between rooms. And the home learns how bright you like them. A simple command gives you music, perhaps piped in from a sound library. Bark, please. And no more PowerPoints. Plugs become pads, picking up power from anywhere on the wall.
So this podcast, well, like any podcast, is going to be raw, like BBC style raw though, so not really raw at all. But trying to make it a little bit more exciting with graphics coming in and out. This has been pre-recorded because this is a concept idea. If any of you like it, I might make another one on a different certain subject. So the previous podcast we did on this channel of Immersive Sports Science was the Australian cricket crisis, which was a two-part, which me and Richard Simpson of the British Psychological Society DSET Northern Hub did together. I also do the podcasts for the DSET Northern Hub called Talking Psych. And I edit those personally myself. So that's a little bit about me, about this channel. My channel is about talking about sports science, trying to eliminate the bro science without actually trying to do social commentary in any way, shape or form, because there's often a mistrust amongst the sports science community about that kind of content and about content creators on YouTube in general. So if I can explain my knowledge in a way that is accessible to everyone while at the same time meeting those demands and needs from that community, then everything's all brill in that respect. So talking on to our first subject, talking about technology and what we expect to see from technology in 2020 and 2019 in terms of fitness and sports science. The world is becoming more electronic. There's more apps available, although many of these apps, I would say from 2019, utilising that as an example, have become trends or become fads. One thing I should actually explain the difference between a trend and a fad. A trend is a general development or change in a situation in a way that people are behaving. This is done by the American College of Sports Medicine. This is how they define it themselves personally. And you'll find that throughout all of this podcast. This is based upon science, based upon white papers, people coming up with ideas and their predictions of what's going to happen in the year. I've just simply collated it and put it together. And maybe add a few opinions of my own. Fad is a fashion that is taken up with great enthusiasm for a brief period of time. And we're starting to see different trends across continents now, what we didn't necessarily have before, thanks to the American College of Sports Medicine being able to publish this. In terms of applications, we're seeing a dying down in apps and fitness apps themselves. People preferring to go along their own way. They often take up an app like 5x5, and either they become proficient at that app or they move on to something else, something new. So I don't think we'll be seeing much in the way of fitness apps affecting the market within 2020. In terms of wearable technology, the increase in wearable technology has ultimately affected how people are going to the gym, how they're viewing them, making sure they get their 10,000 steps in, and they can be included in things such like an Apple iWatch. On the rise at the moment, especially in South America in Asia. The problem with that, I think, we're probably starting to see a slight decline. It's a fad at a moment to wear it, but like with the apps, I think that fad possibly will wear off, maybe not in 2020, but certainly in 2021. There are many problems with this wearable technology in that at the present moment in time, quite a lot of the application on it are certainly not accurate enough, and the hardware is certainly not accurate enough for a specific reading such as heart rates and things like that, but they are improving to a significant extent. VR technology is one of those ones that is slightly disappointing. Any form of sort of that game technology that's came out, that exercise through movement, you get a general point. It's always been a fad. A general point where it's popular and then it dies down. It's popular, it dies down. The Wii is an example of that. 2020 is set to see more of these products come out. However, I don't think the uptake will be as high as people would be expecting or would be wanting to happen. And even if they are, they will ultimately die out within a year's time. In terms of the technology, what we do, and the technology within inside the gyms has increased significantly with Matrix themselves coming in, Life Fitness updating the treadmills and things like that, so that when you're running you can view yourself in Colorado Springs. Talking about Colorado Springs, Robbie J will be on here later to talk about his experiences and predictions for 2020 as an amateur sports broadcaster. So now that really leads me on to, talking about the night trainers that came out for the marathon. Utilising a carbon fibre plate. I reckon we'll maybe not see that in 2020, certainly the end of 2020, by December, possibly 21, 22. That type of technology will be out on the market, ready for people to utilise in marathon running, in terms of marathons themselves. Maybe we might see a slight improvement in terms of marathon time. Certainly the training for marathon has changed considerably and will change considerably in the next few years. At first, we must start to look at the European market. In the European market, there are generally more affluent areas of the first world, and as a result, being able to afford fitness and as a lifestyle, the perception of, is ever more so. But however, in gyms, if there's either a lower or a higher premium model, there's been an upsurge in the number of gyms available to people. However, are we now reaching saturation point? Organised sports and activities are often seen as the cheaper option. However, the rise of cheap gyms means that going to a gym is becoming more and more affordable. However, have we reached that saturation point where there's now so many gyms competing each other, especially at the lower level? Because in gyms, you either have low or premium. Because there's so many at this lower level, will gyms now need to raise their prices in order to compete with one another?
Another noticeable trend is the access to available specialist sporting equipment, such as the rise in cycling in areas like Great Britain, due to the success of the Great Britain side.
Okay, Peloton, let's do this.
But for competitive sport, the Americas hold fantastic potential for a rising surge in traditional sports that are otherwise not necessarily popular there, such as rugby union and rugby league, as emphasised by the success of the Toronto Wolfpack in the English Rugby League. There is also demand for a spring league to potentially rival that of the NFL or the CFL, or to act as a credible minor league to which football doesn't currently have. With the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium hosting the Copa Libertadores in 2018 had an unexpected effect in that it exposed South American football to both Europe and North America. As a result, there's been an increased watch of the South American football game with a potential commercialization of it. Although streaming is a global phenomenon at the moment, incredibly more advanced inside the US, with more streaming options and availability to stream live sport, to which there has been growing business amongst independent and amateur sports analysts. This has partly been helped because of the relaxation in gambling laws, the invention of different ways of gambling, and as well as the existing commercialized structures that are already placed amongst the US, especially in programs like Sportscaster.
They have done everything from kind of pretty much, you can earn monetary value over there. I'm not going to go fully into what I have gotten.
Fair enough.
You know, but they take care of their content creators, which is also something that is awesome in this space. Whereas, you know, you and I, we've both been on YouTube. We know how much of a battle that is. With this Sportscaster, they take care of the sports analysts themselves. Them also providing that opportunity for me also led to me working with other industry analysts. During that weekend, I was able to get contacts to where, you know, I've interviewed Adam Rank, who's on NFL Network. I have gotten contacts through NBC Sports, ESPN Los Angeles. Raj Groves, who's a producer of a morning show in Los Angeles here in America, he has been on my show for 17 weeks straight throughout the whole NFL regular season. Yeah, I had a ESPN employee on my show for 17, and he really wanted to do it. He's like, I want to come on. I want to do this. I'm a guest. I was like, yeah, bro. Like, yes. And we became great friends, like great friends. And he works alongside, you know, the likes of Keyshawn Johnson, who's an NFL and college football legend. Like, literally, they sit next to each other every day, you know, and that's who I was working with for 17 weeks on our show. I have no idea how it happened. I have no idea how we pulled it off.
The Americas offers more corporate opportunities. The East offers more of a fitness challenge in that they often don't trust the technology that comes from the West and often utilize their own brands. This is because they don't trust necessarily how their information is being stored.
Важно только то, что ты чувствуешь и с кем.
Chaos.
Wearable technology has become a strong fad as of late, and it's expected to grow in 2020. Most apps and technology are best utilized with the Latin alphabet. This means they struggle with more native languages like Russian languages and Chinese or Chinese dialects. This is one of the reasons why some of the leading technology and app companies such as Yandex, VK and QQ do so well in such a small area relatively of the world. A Western company would do well to conquer this market. However, a local technology is more likely to prevail, especially in China, With the Olympics happening in Japan on China's doorstep, this is perfect for them to showcase their technological capability. China, with the creation of the Chinese Super League and development of their soccer academy, has tried to improve soccer as a way of showing China as a brand on the world stage. However, throwing money at a problem doesn't necessarily fix that problem. In other words, what is going to make people watch Chinese soccer? The international game has also stagnated. However, this may be because the rest of the world is also throwing money at their teams, and they are also improving. For instance, area rival Japan has pumped a lot of money into Olympic sports.
In terms of social media itself, how are people utilising social media in the fitness and sports science industries? Most of the time it's to leverage a business or leverage their own personal brand. We're seeing in the fitness element anyway, sports science don't do this at all well.
So in social media, we'll probably be expecting to see more short-term video, anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds, becoming the norm, or not necessarily becoming the norm, becoming more popular, especially with stories. And this kind of counteracts what YouTube and other sections are trying to do, is making more longer form more available. Yet again, podcasts are certainly getting there. You mean 8 to 1 hour long videos going deep dive, especially good for sport exercise science. They like to look into their areas in much more deeper meaning, and this could go in the form of live streaming fitness and sport events. Of course, hybrid casts like this one could be very much popular in the future. It allows for greater watch time of that video. Also, what we saw was the rise of what I like to call the anti-health groups, the fat acceptance, the people who don't like fitness and want to, in their own ways, destroy it. We saw that with the health at every size, probably of certain extreme sections of another group. We also saw a 60% rise in pro-ana groups, even though they've been taken pretty much offline by the body positivity, and quite rightly so. Their impact upon the effects of children being admitted into hospital is quite worrying, really. What we are also seeing is the rise of the fitness influencer entrepreneur. They need to diversify their income, so they can't just necessarily focus on doing fitness videos, working out in the gym, or even the old fitness haul, because there's only a certain amount of those videos you can do or content you can make like that before people start getting very bored very quickly. So we're starting to see them get into more like training and buy my course and things like that. If anything we can take from the marketing sphere is that there's a lot of people lying and a lot of people who fake it till they make it. Of course, we cannot forget TikTok. If you don't know what that is, that's a video app made by a Chinese company called ByteDance. Regardless of what many believe, such as Gary Vee, who's got a very blinkered view amongst the US, Instagram is still growing in many of the areas of the world, including Europe. A very old school problem, but something that probably we will go back to, is email lists. A lot of companies, a lot of individuals are utilizing email lists as a form of currency in a way. They can store your details. If, say, for instance, YouTube went down, they still got an audience they can promote their stuff to. We're also going to see the rise of the micro niches. No point just doing fitness. What in fitness is your speciality? Is it HIIT, for instance? We're also going to see, or what 2019 did see, was the rise of the no bullshit information influencer, or content creator, shall I say. That's probably a better terminology for this. The guys who tell you the information breakdown and social commentary was huge that year, and utilising their scientific information in a form of social commentary, commentating on stuff that is factually inaccurate that's come out over the recent days or so. Online training as a form of personal training, online training is set to improve. There's been a massive increase in the terms of people be willing to pay and people offering online training in the form of personal training. And another thing, that what the very essence of social media, it's the S of social media. It's the communication aspect, communicating with individuals, being social online, a focus of getting back to what that actually is. Going back to the beginning, back to basics, so to speak. Trying to make things more personalized, maybe personalized through bots and automation, but people like being talked to, like having a conversation. And that way it may generate more income for certain individuals if they can connect to their audience better. It will create deeper connections. Gen Z, post-millennials, what is next? So in terms of Gen Z, what is next? We know that 80% of all gym users now are Generation Z and or millennials, so the fitness active area. 85% of them go to leisure clubs, and we know there's 89% utilize fitness apps of some degree, which has seen a 330% increase in 2019. Okay, so if Gen Z, those between 1996 and to the current year, or 1996, 2000 upwards, what are they looking for? What are they potentially looking to gauge? What is their general personality sociologically? We know that they desire flexibility and prioritize fun over other aspects of their life. This may be because of their age though. We know that Gen Zs in Europe prefer glamification of exercise, whereas the rest of the world, it's more about there is a greater focus on community and wellness and social aspects regarding fitness, not just on the physical aspects. In the US and Canada, we are likely to see the rise of boutique gyms. However, these gyms have a problem. Maybe the glamification of exercise will help them in their recruiting. In Europe, size matters. Size of gym. Now there may be a gap in the market. Medical experts are really good at medicine but don't really know much about fitness, yet still prescribe it. If you can find a way of bridging the gaps, and this will help the baby boomers, in ultimate end this will ultimately help the practice and ultimately help mental health and wellness, which is a main focus of exercise worldwide, with the exception of Europe, which is more due to looks.
Talking about the top 10 trends, so to speak, in fitness and sports science as of 2020, what we should expect to see is maybe a decline slightly in wearable, or even an increase in wearable technology, as I've mentioned prior. The high intensity interval training is still up there, and Generation Z, the post-millennials, they were still likely to engage in that. We're in that era now where post-millennials, the people born somewhere between 1996 and 2000 are now coming into adulthood. And what kind of training would they like to do and they enjoy? They're preferably more likely to hit the weight room, especially women, for instance. And the type of training, what they like to do, are they probably going to do heavy weights? Are they likely to in future not try and copy our generation, like the booty generation? In terms of HIIT training itself, these exercise programs are typically short bursts of high intensity exercise followed up by shorter breaks. This was the #1 for the last 10 years or so within the ACSM journal of top 10 trends, basically. Between 2014 and 2020, although there are several commercial club examples of HIIT training, for instance LesMills, the Insanity workout by Beachbody, they are basically the top 2 in those kind of areas. Insanity's dropped off and it'll be moving into other much more shorter exercise. Seems to be getting shorter as per nature, lots of people wanting to do the half-an-hour classes. Some of them probably not realizing it may be not for them, and the shorter the class, the harder it is. Generally, the longer the class you do, the much easier the exercise generally is. And there's been more evidence talking about injuries and that. One of the Harley Harley Street doctors talking about knee replacements within people within their 30s, which is quite unusual. Possibly due to the rise in high-intensity interval training over low-intensity LIS exercise, especially amongst women in general. But likewise, this goes on, training with free weights has increased as the adoption of free weights amongst women has definitely increased in itself. The search for the perfect booty and the Instagram booties kind of helped that in a way, it's got women into the weights area. Generally around about 2009ish, this craze came out, and it's still likely to definitely likely to continue in 2020. The interesting one will be what's going to happen with Gen Z, what they likely to want to do and achieve, and we're probably not going to see that for the next 2 or 3, possibly 3 or 4 years. This goes on to personal training. Especially in Europe, personal training is becoming more popular. People are likely to have a personal trainer. This is slightly different to, even though personal training is popular across all continents, this is slightly different in other continents, maybe because in Europe personal training is not a massive expense, so to speak. Yes, there are clubs like up in London where you can charge £500 for a personal training session. But utilising Leeds, for instance, the average price is £20, and that's the reason why I can personal train up there. It just wouldn't be worth my time and effort. But down in basically London and the South End, 50 quid for a personal training session once a week is not exactly going to break the bank. It's an affordable percentage of one's income, and it increases motivation, especially if you do it in a group. You can even cut the price between the two of you in order to do that personal training session. Especially access to probably online training. You can probably class that as personal training. I probably would class it something separate because you don't actually meet the client necessarily. There are pros and cons to this. The first pro being, you have access to someone who's shown that they've got credibility. Now, how you define that credibility it's down to you. The lowest form of credibility or lower form analysis is anecdotal analysis, where we look at someone and think, yeah, they got a quite nice body, I'd rather have that. It may not necessarily be individual differences, and you don't equate those individual differences. This person might know how to train themselves, definitely might not know how to train with you, and that's in certain respects in sports coaching as well. If you were to take an athlete, for instance, doing the 1500 meters, some may have a more speed-based approach, doing interval training, where the other one puts in the miles, and yet they still get the same time. Why is that? Well, everybody is different, and you have to find a trainer that suits you on because you actually got to get along with them. So not only have they got to be, you got to get along with them, but you've also got to work with them. It's a working relationship as such. And there's certain number of trainers and coaches out there who do not have the credibilities and shouldn't really be promoting exercise, as I've mentioned previously in the social media section of this podcast. It's a difficult one in the respect, how do you find a trainer online then that suits your needs? Look at the type of qualifications got, and then try and work out their knowledge they have got. Is it nuanced? If they try to do one specific secret or something like that, they utilise one definitive, because there's no definitives in fitness as such. So now we know how to find them, try and find their knowledge, their understanding of knowledge. There are still cons for the actual trainer themselves. For instance, there is only one of them. And it takes time to do these things. You've got to sit down, you've got to organise and arrange a Skype call with the individual, because the likelihood you're not even going to live in the same area, let alone the same country as that individual, your client. And sometimes the clients want very different things. So if you niche down and become specific, so for instance, Alan Roberts specialises on Everyday Damn Fitness, specialises in working with obese clients, whereas someone else may not specialise in obese clients. Likewise, you've got to remember there's only one of you. So for instance, in the case of Brittany Dawn Fitness, when she started putting her online training online with a specific aid of helping everyone individually, she had over 1,000 clients and was unable to cope. You can do the maths yourself, one person over 1,000 clients, you're not going to have the time of day to be able to write the programs for them and still be able to coach them. Likewise, it depends why many people want personal training. Is it individual motivational needs? Is it because they don't quite know what they're doing? But that's quite popular at the moment, especially inside Europe. And greater need worldwide to employ fitness individuals who have a certain, what's the better word to call it? Certified fitness professionals. So quite a lot, not in the UK and US, but certain places around the world. It's often or it could be the local bodybuilder who kind of knows a bit about training but doesn't. So the rise in PT courses, level 2 qualifications, is a big help in that respect, but also the importance of hiring certified health professionals through educational programs specific to, let's say, for instance, pregnancy. That's another thing that's become big popular. People want to exercise when they are pregnant as well. And trying to find a certified exercise professional to help you with that is going to be more beneficial than, say, someone who's going to go to the gym just to get bigger arms. Another big thing to talk about is I think we're going to start seeing the decline of this. We saw the rise of it in 2019, but now we're going to see the decline in 2020 is the understanding of functional fitness. It's quite a loose term, but what actually is functional fitness? Many people refer to it as their core exercises. Some people may refer it as picking this chair up and walking down the end of the end of this building here. It's one of these things. It's great for everyday fitness, but its understanding and definition is just far too broad. But it's likely this trend towards using strength training in part to improve balance, coordination, muscular strength. You can do that during squats. So the definition probably needs a little bit more fine-tuning in that respect. But another thing to talk about is the wellness, training for wellness, training for mental health. We probably don't do it so much in the UK here, but in places like Australia it's becoming really big. Talking about your own health, talking about your own wellness, but also exercising to help improve that, because you release positive pleasure hormones when you exercise, and that helps to mediate the body, trying to get it back into homeostasis. And the understanding of utilising exercise for wellness has improved. However, there are people jumping on the back of it, trying to promote flow training, which has no positive benefits to exercise at all. And you'll find that with every exercise trend, there's someone trying to pile you with nonsense just to sell and make a quick buck. We are going to talk about fitness for the older generation. It's coming well known worldwide that exercising when you're older improves your glenoskeletal muscle, prevents osteoporosis, and basically prevents the cells from. You're basically trying to maintain your fitness level as you. It's kind of morbid, but you're trying to descend, and exercising in that respect will help you maintain a modicum of health and fitness at your older age. Now, whereas it's trying to get past that idea, especially amongst the older female generation who used to just be cardio bunnies all the time, and if they lift weights, they pick up the smallest weight in the room because they didn't want to look huge, and that's just not possible. That just doesn't happen, and it's trying to get round to that to prevent frailness in older age and to prevent health illnesses that happen in older age, especially as now we're becoming more obese, and that has an effect upon the health system, upon our own health, and trying to mediate those risks. But likewise, this is becoming as it says here, a $95 billion industry in total, the wearable technology for fitness, but also fitness is over 100 billion itself. So it's definitely an improving market in terms of gyms themselves. I'm starting to think that possibly we are reaching saturation points, but that depends roughly on the area you live. The world's becoming a much more urban environment. People are spreading over to cities, and as the result of that, exercise in space becomes less. You're going to likely play less sport and you to go to the gym more often, or maybe even go for a run if in certain parts of the world where there's high pollution, going for a run may be seen as probably the worst option you can potentially do, although I'd say sit in the car. If you look at the results from the Sheffield research, actually you get more pollution sitting in a car than what you do actually on the pavement. But anyway, so those are my 10 predictions for the year in terms of fitness, in terms of sports science, and what I think you will slowly start to see is more professors trying to get onto, and doctors trying to get onto social media to spread the message, because they're not doing it so well. But maybe doing it in a way that is a conference format. So we're starting to see more conferences being streamed online, and people being considered the experts, like for instance on TED Talks, being able to express their knowledge, being able to express the information that they have gathered throughout their years of experience and produce that to a wider audience. So this is the State of Fitness 2020. I hope you have enjoyed the podcast. If you want to look at my other socials, please do. We're on Instagram at Immersive Sports Science, TikTok. We should have an Immersive Sports Science one coming soon, but we have an Immersive Health and Fitness, looking at the health and fitness side of it, a little bit more fun. If you're looking for personal training services, Twitter and Facebook at Adam PT and Performance, and more importantly, YouTube down below. Smash that bell. Immersive Sports Science, not bro science.